let's come back home, where big agro-allied companies listed on the Nigerian exchange, such as Okomo Oil Palm and Presco, have delivered good earnings for the 2021 financial year. But it's not all sweet story for these agri-based industries and others whose plantations are now regularly targeted by thieves and gunmen, causing damage and death. Let's treat these earnings. In the news now with Johnson Chukwu, the CEO at Cowry Asset Management. Welcome to the show. Good evening, Johnson. It's good to see you again. As always, we appreciate your time. What were the drivers of growth as reported by Presco PLC for its 9 months earnings for 2021 financial period?
Thank you, Bosin, for having me. I think the major drivers of Presco's impressive performance is one, the price of its final product, which is crude oil and crude oil byproducts, as well as the fact that it has grown in optimizing its 23,000 hectares of cultivated palm plantations. So one, it's a fully integrated palm oil producing company with right from point of growing the palm fruits and to the point of refining the products. So, and again, we also know that the federal government placed a ban on importation of palm oil and palm oil products. So that actually led to an improvement in the price of the crude palm oil and other byproducts. We're living in a country where the demand for their product is far above supply. So they have occupy with other operators in the market some level of market power. And I think those are factors that influence their performance. One, good prices for their products. Two, optimal production capabilities. And very good yield. Obviously, they had very good yield in that period.
Interesting that Presco is also announcing plans to acquire another company called Siat Limited for cash consideration, 21 billion naira. That's a whole lot of money on the table. I'm sure you know that. You are an investment deal person, Johnson, so you know. How important is this deal for Presco to be able to put 21 billion naira on the table? How should the market respond?
If you look at the fact that Presco had about 23,000 hectares of cultivated land, and is coming with, and Siat is coming with about 16. Sorry, they have about 16,000 additional
hectares
plantation. Plantation. So that will increase the plantation size of Presco to about 38,000. And as it stands today, Presco said virtually all their farm land have been fully cultivated, other than the one in I think in Ubima. So this will, the one in Ubima, what they're acquiring is the one in Ubima and the one in Elele. So that they're going to replant the one in Ubima, and that will give them opportunity for increased revenue. One of the things Presco said that this will give an opportunity for increase in revenue as well as cost optimization, because by the time you spread the cost of operation across the larger production or revenue capacity that they're going to generate by this investment, they will have more efficiency in cost utilization. So Presco is going to have both increase in the top line in terms of revenue and also improvement in the bottom line, because cost will reduce. Cost per barrel of crude palm oil produced or other refined products will also improve. So Presco is going to enjoy two benefits. One, it will improve their market size and market position as a leader in that industry. Two, they are going to have material improvement in the revenue, and they will lead to cost optimization. So by investing about 21 billion naira into this acquisition, remember that even the South African company that invested that just recently invested about 6 billion naira in improving the plantations in those two plants, the one in Elele and the one in Ubima. So Presco is taking a wide decision. And remember also, it's worth to mention that Presco is highly ungeared. Their total debt is at about 25 billion. And adding another 21 billion, we just take them into a debt profile of about 46 billion. In a single year, they made more net profit after tax of more than 18 billion. If you look at their cash flow, it's very strong. They had an increase in the top line of close to 100%. So I think they're in strong position, and the values that Siat bring to them is quite significant.
The Okomo Oil Palm is a major competitor to Presco. They also reported very impressive numbers for last year. Full year earnings per share up nearly 45%. But here is Okomo Oil Palm reporting a few days ago an attack on his rubber plantation in Edo State by gunmen, killing one of his employees and setting part of the facility on fire. A similar incident has been reported by Ella Lakes, which is another Agro-Allied company, because thieves went there. They wanted to steal some of their products or the rubber being cultivated, and then there was an exchange of gunfire and all of that. What do you make of these incidences, Johnson?
Well, I think these are some of the symptoms of the deterioration in security around the country. I don't think it's peculiar to Okumo or Elale. Just that because they are public companies, their affairs, whatever happens to them, comes to public light. I know of some friends of mine who have large commercial farms in those states that can no longer go to those farms because they've been chased away by criminal gunmen. And they can't go there. So there are several of such. I also have another senior colleague of mine who has a farm somewhere in Ondo State. He can't go there. So the reason why this is coming to light is because it involves prominent corporate citizens. A lot of Nigerians are going through the same difficulty. As you know, Bosin, even in the Northwest, places like Zamfara, places like Kasena, some parts of Sokoto State, people can't go to the farms. It seems similar. It's similar insecurity where that is actually extending to corporate organizations. It's not unique to those in the agricultural sector, but because they are in farmlands that are remote from the urban areas, they are likely going to come under more severe threat when the marauders are left unchecked.
So do you think insecurity has now become an issue for these listed companies and others? How do you think investors, like an analyst, should begin to respond to this kind of insecurity risk?
What I would say is that investors have already factored in the insecurity situation in the country. It is a threat. And like I said, we've seen smaller corporate farmers abandon their farmlands because of insecurity. We hope they won't degenerate to that point where corporate institutions that have the muscle to fight back will also retract or retrace their steps towards expanding their business operations. So clearly, it's a concern to investors because if it gets to that point, I mean, we've already seen that impact in terms of food inflation. As part of the reasons why we're having current high food inflation because farmers have been displaced in many of the farming belts. So, and that is gradually cropping towards the south. Because if you talk of the likes of Okumo, most of their farms are in the southern part of the country. And the government, I think it's a clarion call that now is getting to that point, that the government must do something to curtail the spate of attacks in rural farmlands, in farm areas, not just in rural areas, including all forms of insecurity. Many of the oil companies are folding out of the shallow offshore and land assets and moving toward the deep offshore because of insecurity. The crude oil production in the country had diminished to a very low level of 1.3 million barrels a day last year because of insecurity. So it's cut across the entire spectrum, entire value chain of the Nigerian society, not just agricultural sector, but having come to the point because agriculture is so critical in this country because it's a source of food. At the minimum, we must feed ourselves. So the government must take out necessary measures to cut down or to curtail the rate at which this situation is deteriorating.
The Chief Executive Officer at Cowry Asset Management, Johnson Chukwu, thank you so much for your time and have a pleasant evening. We appreciate that.